Welcome to the Intermediate Game Plan Part 2. By now you should have already watched Part 1, as well as the Beginner's Game Plan Guide, because what we're going to do in this one expands upon those. Now before we get started, I want to mention something that I forgot to say in the last video, and that's, for Numpad Notation, I never said what the 5 in the middle means. Basically all that means is you don't press any direction. So, if it says 5H, for example, that just means you press standing heavy attack. That's all that means. So this video consists of Phase 2 from before, which was everything that happened in melee range, you know, about where you're swinging your weapons at each other. We're also going to go over new combos, as well as what it means to take turns, plus a secret little aspect of fighting games that I can't mention right now because every time you say it, it just makes everybody turn their brains off for some reason. It kind of reminds me of if you've ever known someone who wants to lose weight or something and they have to alter their diet. They get to a point where they need to learn one thing, and it always makes everybody turn into a cornered animal or something, and they want to fight back at it. You probably know what I'm talking about. It's called counting calories. And for some reason, the second you say that to someone, they just turn into oh no, not me. I'm not counting any calories. Keep it away. And this that we have to learn is basically the fighting game equivalent of that. But don't go anywhere. Don't worry. I know a super secret, easy way to teach it. But first we're going to go into poking. So as you should remember from what we went over before, poking is hitting with the tip of your weapon and also to keep your opponent away. But let's say that you picked a new character and you took him into training mode and you wanted to know which buttons are good pokes. Well, you kind of want them to have pretty good range and pretty good speed. So you're trying to find this balance, because the longer range, usually the slower they're going to be. So you want a good balance between the two. And another use for pokes is also to keep your opponent out of your space. So imagine you're swinging your weapon in front of you, and you're saying, hey, you can't enter my space. If you try to walk into my space, you're getting hit, so you better stay away from me. It kind of reminds me of, if you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Bart is swinging his arms around and Lisa's kicking and they're like, if you get hit, it's your fault. Pretty much that's what's going on here. In fact, doing this dance of poking at your opponent and you're both spacing yourselves around each other, it actually has a name. The name is Footsies. Now I know the name sounds really stupid, but that's just what it's called. It came from, of course, Street Fighter, and in Street Fighter you used to use crouching medium kick to poke at your opponents. It's a really good poke and it hits low. And so the two characters would be going back and forth and trying to rub their feet against each other, basically, and so that's how it got the name Footsies. So, Footsies itself is the act of trying to space yourself around what your opponent's doing. You want to make what they do whiff, and then you want to punish it. But you want to be careful yourself not to whiff your attacks or get hit by their pokes. Now the next term we're going to learn, people will use interchangeably with Footsies a lot. I want you to understand this, but I also want you to understand the difference between them so you know why there's two terms. So the next term is called neutral. Now neutral is what's happening whenever you're not engaged with your opponent, whenever you're in a neutral state. The game is in a neutral state. No one is at an advantage. So if you're in a combo, it's not neutral. If they're stuck in a block string, it's not neutral. If you have someone knocked down or you have them in the corner, that's not neutral. Neutral is when you're both kind of on equal ground, if that makes any sense. Now, Footsies can be a part of neutral, but that doesn't mean it is neutral. Neutral is more of this all-encompassing thing that Footsies is just a part of. But again, it depends on who you're talking to. You see, the thing about fighting game terminology is it's very much like slang, in that it depends on where you grew up, what language you speak, what game you're talking about, what year it is. All these things change what terms mean and what they don't mean. And so I just want you to understand that there's multiple meanings for everything, and there's no real right or wrong, but there's kind of more accepted and not accepted definitions of stuff. The way that I'm teaching you is just my way of thinking about it. And the reason I want you to know the difference is because let's say you get to a point where you hit a plateau in your fighting game journey, and so you submit your replay for people to take a look at, and they go and say, hey, you have really good neutral. And what they probably mean by that is that you have good footsies. That's probably what they mean. But I just want you to understand that these terms will get used interchangeably. And also, I mentioned the term block string. I realized that I did. We're going to go over that later, though, so I don't want to define it right now, so don't worry. So for the next part, I want to bring back our little Pokemon triangle from before. And as you know, no matter which one you pick, you're always going to be strong against one and weak to the other. Fighting games are made up of a whole bunch of little triangles. So what I want you to take from that is that no matter what you're up against, there's always a solution. Everything can be beaten. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you don't know how to beat something, well then just add it to a triangle. So let's do a little exercise. We're going to make our own triangle. Now, most of this you already know how to do because I mentioned it earlier, so let's see if you were paying attention. Let's say we're in the middle of a match, and our opponent keeps walking up to us and then doing a big combo on us. So we're having an issue with letting our opponent walk up to us. So that's the first point of our triangle, is our opponent is walking forward. And now we need to find a way to beat walking forward. So what do we know how to do that beats walking forward? Do you remember? Poking. Poking beats walking forward. So we add poking to the second point of our triangle. Now, our opponent keeps trying to walk up to us because that's what he wants to do, but we keep poking him out of it. So now he's getting frustrated, and he says to himself, I want to walk forward, but he keeps poking me. So what do I do to beat poking? So what is our opponent going to do in order to beat our poking? What beats poking? Whiff punishing. So whiff punishing beats poking. So our opponent will maybe take a step forward and then stop, or take a step back. He makes us whiff, and then he attacks us, and he beats our pokes with whiff punishing. And with that, we have a complete triangle. Now, the more observant of you out there are probably wondering something right now. You're probably thinking, how the hell does walking beat whiff punishing? Well, let me explain how. You see, when you try to whiff punish, you have to pay attention to your opponent's movements. And if you were to have this knee-jerk reaction to every little thing they do, they could easily fake you out by just moving their character back and forth really quick. And then you'll try to punish them, but you'll actually whiff yourself. And so to prevent yourself from doing that, you kind of train yourself to not give in to little movements. And instead, you pay attention to the animation changing, only when they're doing an attack, not when they're moving. So we can use that to our advantage. And when your opponent is obviously looking at you for whiff punishing, they're putting all their effort on that, you could just easily walk forward and you can attack them or throw them or do whatever you want. That's how walking forward beats whiff punishing. So now you know how to make your own triangle. So if you ever come across something you don't know how to beat, you'll know how to add it to a triangle. So with all that theory out of the way, let's actually learn something practical where we can press some buttons. So let's take our whiff punishing that we learned before, and let's expand upon it. Now before, we were just getting a single hit off of a whiff punish, which is great, you have to learn how to do that first. But we can get a lot more off of it. Now, there's this thing in fighting games called buffering. And what you do is you swing your weapon and you input a special move. So if you look on my inputs on the left there, you can see I press medium and then hit the special button. So a fireball should be coming out, but it doesn't, because I'm pressing it while the animation of the medium attack is going. So what this means, and how we can use this, is that the only time the fireball comes out is if we make contact with our opponent. So watch, if I hit him, the fireball comes out. But because I'm swinging it in the air and it's not hitting him, the fireball won't come out. Now, if the fireball does come out, you're pressing it too slow. You have to press it faster. So we could use this buffer technique to make our whiff punishes a little better. When he swings, we punish it, and then that's how the special move comes out. Now, unfortunately for us, the fireball doesn't get to him fast enough. In fact, most of her special attacks won't go fast enough. We could even try EX Rekka, and it's not going to reach, because he's too far away. If we punish from this far away, it's too far away for any of the stuff that we can do to hit him. So, instead, we can try using a new type of move I haven't gone over yet, which is the blue ultimate moves. And we'll use her blue ultimate Rekka. So because that slows down time, it will reach. So you can see he swings to about here, and we swing to about here. So if I back up to maybe about right there, right here, I could probably punish him and still hit him with it. Let's see. Did you see that? So this move is very strong. We can punish him from any range and get him with it. So we buffer into this instead. Now to do this move, we hit back, the unique button, and then the skill button at the same time. So just like this. Now you have to keep something in mind. These blue ultimate moves cost meter. You see this meter up at the top. It says 100%. Now I want you to watch. I'm going to use it, and you watch it's going to drop down to 50 because it costs 50 meter to use these moves. And then it's going to drop, or it's going to raise back up to 75 really quick. So watch it. Did you see that? So what's happening is when you make contact, when you actually hit your opponent, it doesn't work on block. But when you hit them, it refunds half of it. But it costs 50. You need to have at least 50 to do this move. So you can't do this at the beginning of the match. But you kind of have to pay attention to your meter, so it's a little advanced. But it's the only way for us to make our whiff punishes better. With Djeeta, at least. So anyway, yeah, that's what we're going to do for whiff punishing. Now, in the next section, we're going to go over some combos. And I kind of recorded these out of order. I'm doing this later. So I don't use a combo with this. The combo we're going to learn involves this. And instead, you could always use the blue version instead of that. It will always work, but not the other way around. So with whiff punishing, let's say you whiff punish and you get this, you can continue the combo that I'm going to teach you in the next section with that. Just keep that in mind. But the EX, if you want to whiff punish with EX, you still can. You just have to walk in and attack him. It's not easy to do, but you see how it says punish on the left there? That means I hit him before he recovered. So if I'm that close, then I can get the EX Rekka. So you kind of have to do this little in and out game here, and then you can do it. But the easier one is to just do the blue one, because look at that. I can hit him from a mile away. Just keep that in mind. So now that our whiff punishing game is a little better, let's improve our combo game as well. So here's our new combo. Now, most of this you should know by now. The only thing I didn't go over yet are those 3 X's. And all that means is that you could use either light, medium, or heavy attacks. The X's just mean pick whichever one. They all should work. Like, the combos still work no matter which one you pick. So, because there's a little C with the 3 letters, we've seen that pattern before, and we know that means basically our auto combo. Then it goes into 214H with the squiggles, and the 214H happens multiple times. So we know with Djeeta, that pattern means it's her Rekka. But the H means it's the EX version of the Rekka. Now the EX version has 3 inputs, not just 2. So you've got to time all 3 hits. And this might take you some practice. I always just press it when that final hit of each thing hits him. I don't know how to explain it. It's so hard because she hits twice per input, but here's one input, and I press it again after that second slash hits, and then I'll press it again after the fourth slash hits. If that makes any sense. But keep practicing that until you get it. You need to get that. That's like one of her best moves. So the thing about this though is that on block, this isn't safe. So even if we stop early, it's not safe. So if they're blocking like this, we either stop with the auto combo, if you can do that. If not, cancel into the first hit of her medium Rekka and then block. The first hit of her medium Rekka is safe. So on block, medium Rekka, block. Okay? That might be difficult though, so it might be easier just to block after the auto combo, because you're still safe after that. Now you're probably thinking, this looks a lot like the combo we already learned, and you're not wrong. But what's nice about this one is there's a little hidden extra thing at the end of the combo that happens. Now, I'm gonna hit him again, and I want you to watch and see if you noticed anything. Did you notice that at the end there? I'm gonna do it again, and I want you to watch his body and what happens to it once we get to the corner. Did you see how he bounced off the wall there? Now in Granblue, when you bounce your opponent off the wall like that, that means you get to keep comboing them. So, you see, I get to keep hitting him. So let's take our combo and slide it over to the side, and let's add a new extension to the end of it. I'll put a little marker in the middle so you know where the wall bounce happens. But yeah, this extension, we get to add this to the end of the combo if we bounce them against the wall. So you see it says close medium, well, that's close medium, and then 236H, which is our EX Fireball. Let's try to do that and let's see if we can get it. Now, did you notice how the X Fireball popped him up in the air again? That means we get to keep comboing after that. And as you can see in the combo, we hit him with another close medium into 623M, which is medium DP. That one. So let's try to put the whole thing together. And there we go. That was our whole combo. Now, there are several reasons why I went with this combo. This combo is not optimal, and it's by design. You could add more to it, but I wouldn't do that unless you really knew what you were doing. You see, in this game, when you're juggling your opponent, there is a combo limit. They put that in there because otherwise certain characters could just combo you to death, and that's no fun. So this combo doesn't have too many hits, so it doesn't hit that limit. And also, I end with medium DP, not with EX DP. Now the reason for that is because in the top left, up here, above Djeeta, you see those 4 squares with the little symbols in them, the pictures. Those are your attacks. So if I were to shoot a fireball, do you see how it goes away? It's on cooldown, and it comes back. Now training mode, where is it? Training mode has fast cooldown. We're gonna turn it to default so you can see how long it takes. Now, if I use a regular DP, do you see how fast that refills? Now I'm gonna use medium. You see how it takes a few seconds? It's pretty slow, but still, watch what happens when I use EX. Look at how long it takes. This entire time, we don't have access to that move, and I don't like that. So that's why I use medium DP. So, we finish our combo with medium DP. It's a little less damage, but that means we get to use it again faster, and that having a DP is very good, so I always want access to it. So that's the reason why I went with medium. Now one thing I want to add is this combo has a very tricky part in it. Right after that wall bounce, when you have to hit the close medium attack, it's very tricky. It looks easy when I do it, but it's really hard to time that first hit. It's going to take you a lot of practice. It almost feels like you're timing it kind of late, like as they're falling down. Like it almost feels like they're about to hit the floor. Now you can't do it too fast or too slow or it's not going to work. So you got to get the timing down. It'll take some practice. It's the hardest part of the combo. But we can add one more thing to the end of it to make it even spicier. You see, instead of that medium DP, we can instead add our super. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the same combo, but we're going to do our skybound art, which I call super, at the end of it. Now to do the skybound art, if you're using a controller, you just press L1 and R1 at the same time, or right and left bumper at the same time if you have standard button layout. If you're using a fight stick or something, you're going to have to look at how to do it. So let's see what the whole combo looks like. Look at all that. Look at the damage go up. 6,500 damage. And all that explosion and everything. So yeah, there is our simple little staple combo that will cover us for most situations. The reason why I like it so much is because it's very consistent. The amount of hits I have makes it consistent where it works in almost every situation. It also has lots of corner carry. This move just takes them all the way across the screen. So it works mid-screen, and it also works in the corner too. You could do it from here. You see? And we can add super to the end of it. It's a very versatile combo, and that's why I think you should learn it. Now, if you're not using Djeeta, obviously this combo is not going to work for you. If that's the case, go to the Deathloop wiki and look up your character's combos, and you should find some simple, they call them bread and butter combos, BNBs sometimes. Look for those. If you can't find them, or if they're not working out for you, you can ask me in the comments. Maybe I can come up with something for your character that's easy enough for you to do. Now there's one more combo I want you to learn. It involves 66L, which is our Dancing Light attack. This attack is very good in this game currently. I want to say this first though. If you're watching this in the future, make sure they haven't nerfed this move, because a lot of people hate it right now, and they might make a change to it so it's not so strong. So check that first. But this move can link into 5L. So I'll put the combo on screen right now. So 66L into 5L into either light or medium fireball, whichever one's easier. It's probably easier just to press the special button by itself. So it looks like this. And that's a nice little combo to learn. And even if they block it, it should push you away far enough to make you safe. So that's a good combo to learn, but it might be nerfed in the future, so look that up first. Now, when do you get to do our basic combo? Because you have to be right in front of their face, and they're not going to let you do that. They're going to attack to keep you out of their face. So when are we going to get a chance to do this combo? Well, that's when we need to punish unsafe moves. And how do we know when a move's unsafe? Well, that takes us into our next section. Well, it's finally come to that point in the video where I have to go over that one thing nobody wants to talk about. What is it called? Well, it's called frame data. And why does everybody hate it so much? Well, because it looks like this. And nobody's about to do Excel spreadsheets when they're trying to play a video game. But here's what we're going to do. We're not going to use any of that stuff. In fact, we're not even going to use numbers at all. Instead, we're going to learn by color. So here's what you do. You go into your settings, go over to display, go down to frame information, turn that to show. Then go to your opponent, go to blocking, and make sure they're blocking everything. Now, if you remember in the beginner guide, I had Anila do her 66H, her dashing H attack, and I said it's unsafe on block and that you can punish it. Well, that was basically frame data at work. So let's test that out now with Djeeta. So you know how I say do not do Djeeta's medium Rekka, the complete thing on block because it's unsafe. Let's see what that looks like. I turned red. And what does red mean? Red means you're dead. You don't ever want to turn red. Red means that you did something that's unsafe and your opponent can punish you for it. Red is always bad. So now, let's go to the flip side of things. You remember how there's that dashing light attack, 6XL, that I've been talking about, and I said it's really strong and everybody's getting tired of it because they think it's too powerful? Let me show you why. I'm going to do the dashing light attack on him. Now, do you see how I turned blue? Blue means you're good. Blue means it's still your turn, in fact. That means if I were to press more buttons after this, and he were to press buttons at the same time, I would win. Not many moves make you blue in this game, but dashing light attack does. So keep that in mind. Now, we've learned blue and red, but there's one more color, as you could probably tell because she's glowing it right now, giving it away. But here's what that one does. Now, you know how I say if you stop at the first input of her medium Rekka that you're safe? Let's take a look at that and what that does. It turns yellow. Now, what does yellow mean? Yellow means you're safe. But yellow means it is no longer your turn. He can't punish me, but if I and him push a button at the same time, he will win. So yellow means you need to start blocking, but you can't get a guaranteed punish done on you. So the way it works is usually you end your block strings and you'll end up in yellow. Yellow is just like you're safe, and that's usually how things end. And a block string is just a combo on your opponent's block. That's all a block string is. There's more to it than that, but I'm going to go over that in the next video. That's not for this one. So, let's kind of recap. Blue means you're good. It's still your turn, and if you press a button and he presses a button at the same time, you will win. Red means you're dead. It's unsafe. You don't ever want to end up red. Don't finish your block strings in things that turn you red when you're testing things out in training mode here. And yellow just means it's not your turn anymore, but you're safe. They can't punish you, so you're going to end up yellow most of the time. Very few things make you blue, and a lot of stuff will make you red, so you have to watch out for that. And that's basically all there is to it for frame data. There are some common terms that people will use to describe each color, though. For blue, they're going to say you're plus, or they're going to say you're at advantage, or they're going to say it's still your turn. Those are the common things for blue. For yellow, they're going to say you're minus, or they might say it's safe. That refers to yellow. Now, red is kind of confusing because technically red is still minus, just like yellow is. But you don't want to describe red as being just minus because the person still might think they're safe. So instead, you'll say you're like hella minus or something like that. But usually people will say it's unsafe or punishable is usually what they say to refer to red. Now let's talk about taking turns. The way that fighting games work, I want you to think of it like a turn-based RPG, where you attack, then they get to attack. So it kind of will look like this. You do your attack, and then you stop because it's on block. Then they go and they do their attack, and then they stop. And you go back and forth like that. And you're taking turns. Now, there's ways that when your turn ends, you can steal your turn back. But I don't want you to do those things just yet. I want you to just kind of stick to the formula of taking your turn and then expecting them to retaliate. Because at lower ranks, most of the time people are going to be mashing buttons anyway. But it gets you used to the flow and the feeling of taking turns. But just know that later on, you're going to try to steal turns away. You're going to try to sneak in attacks when you're negative. So you could do something like this. No, let's not do that one. You could do something like this, and you're red, but then you do an invincible move. And little cheesy things like that. But I don't want you doing that just yet. Just know that you take turns, and that's kind of how people describe this game, is a turn-taking game. And with that, you've finished the Intermediate Game Plan Part 2. Part 3 won't be nearly as big as this one, at least I hope. So it should be smooth sailing. This was the big one. There was actually more I wanted to add to it, but I decided to push it over into the next video because this one was getting too long. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. And as always, if you have any questions or, if you need to correct me, if I got something wrong, feel free to leave that in the comments and let me know. And I guess I'll see you in Part 3.